Okay, let's do a quick mic check. Okay, hold on. Try that again. All right, there we go. Cool. It is working now. All righty. Let's just check the last thing here. Uh, okay, that's working. Perfect. Okay, I think everything is working properly now. Hey, Des. Audio is good. Awesome. Thank you, Des. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see. Hope you aren't. This says, "Hope you aren't too tired." I mean, debatable what you mean by too tired. I am tired, but I've got coffee, and I also have an obligation to finish this commission at some point soon. I don't remember exactly the date, but it's due. But I'm trying to get it done as quickly as well, not as quickly as I can. I'm not rushing it. I don't always have the time to work on it, so I want to, um, I want to work on it when I can. So if I do have a bit of energy, I want to do it because this weekend I am once again not going to be available to really paint. I am at this event. There's the Austin studio tour. So I'm once again going to be at the Austin studio tour. Um, and so I won't have the time to properly work on this. Let me get the camera up. But yeah, hello. That's why my background is so bare right now. There's just well, most of my paintings are, um, boxed up, ready to go back up on for the show. I need one more brush. I forgot about. One second. But yeah, it's been a little rough lately. I haven't shared too much about it because I don't want to for numerous reasons. But yeah, new job and it's a bit rough. All right, I got all the brushes I think I'll need, except for maybe I'll probably need my liner at some point, but that can wait till later. And let me just get my palette out. Anyways, how are you doing, Des? I know you talked about possibly streaming, and you know, no, you said that didn't work out, but I hope that you don't give up on it and you know, try again another day. Shoot. Oh well. Just remembered that my glasses are downstairs. If I need them, I will have to take a break to go grab them. Oh well. I can probably do most of the painting without them. You'll try again tomorrow? Oh, that's good. Oh, shoot. I need to take out this memory card. Only got 10 minutes of recording left on it. I need to, one thing I really need to buy is more storage. I'm running out of digital storage space so fast. I won't be able to watch your stream tomorrow, but I hope it goes well. You're welcome to, share in my Discord that you're going to be streaming. All right. Some of this is wet and some isn't. Let's see if I can see it. Okay, very little is wet. I can kind of see it here. All right. Ah, 1 second. All right, I am off camera right now because I'm trying to see the what's it called? The reflection to see like what parts are still wet and what parts aren't, so that I can oil out the painting. So let's see if I can oil out like this. Okay, this brush I was hoping would be good for oiling out. It is not. Oh well. All right, let's try that again. Uh, oh, I'm transferring some color. That's less than ideal. Alrighty. That'll have to do because any more and I think it'll become a problem. I wish I had a brush. I might be able to use the fan brush for this, but I wish I had a brush that had like a very clear, like great texture. Hold on a second. Um, okay, sorry about that. I just sneezed like crazy. My allergies are legit trying to kill me right now. I hate it. Alrighty. I was saying I wish I had a like in digital you get they have these rake brushes. They have like, you know, 4 or 5 or whatever, like, rakes, and they rake across. I wish I had that uh in a traditional brush. I know there those exist in theory. I just don't own any of them, and I almost never need it, but right now I do. But, oh well. Oh well. I'll have to survive without it. All right. Oh, now I gotta blow my nose. Freaking allergies, man. Freaking allergies. Alrighty. Ah, okay. All right. But yeah, they also have rakes as like you can buy them as plastic. You know, they have versions that are plastic. They have versions that are palette knives. Um, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll just get a piece of cardboard and try and make one or something. We'll see, because I just kind of need the texture, but we'll see. It's not you know that crucial, I don't think. Let's All right. Most of this is in pretty good shape, honestly. This is a commission that is actually in pretty good shape. I'm just going to try and finish it, honestly, or get it closer to a finish at least, nearly finished, whatever. However, and oh, man, why is my screen not turning all the way? There we go. Now I can see chat better. Um, and yeah, it's important to remember that when you're painting, this is something I have to remind myself too, for the record, that when you're painting a portrait, unless your style is, you know, ultra realism or hyper realism or whatever they call it, um, the goal is not to recreate the photo, you know? And it's tough because you want to stay, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Loyal to to the original, to the thing you're painting. But that's not always, really what you're supposed to be doing. Because you can make a beautiful portrait that looks like the person and um, isn't an exact copy of the photo reference, assuming you're working from photo reference, of course. But yeah, you can still make a great portrait that isn't an exact copy. It's important to remember that, you know, it's hard sometimes. I get it. I struggle with it too. Yeah. And the way I paint, Des knows this, but for anyone who isn't super familiar, or even if you are, I'm just repeating myself, but the way I paint, there's a lot of like as I go through the painting, a lot of things shift a little bit, and they kind of I lose their place sometimes. And yeah, you could chalk that up to, like poor accuracy in a way because I don't always stay in the lines and edges kind of end up shifting around. Um, but for me, part of that is just not like if I worry too much about the edges and I worry too much about everything getting it right away all at once, I have a tendency to tighten up a lot. And then no matter what happens, it just ends up not being a good painting. So it doesn't really matter. Like it's kind of pointless at that moment. So I rather mess up, reestablish everything, and then mess it up again until I'm happy with it. And it does affect certain aspects of my painting in a sense, because there are certain painting techniques which I don't know that I could pull off because of how because of my other techniques, you know. But kind of have to make your choices, right? Like something, not all you can't do all the techniques all at once. And if you can, teach me how, because I am unaware of that. I'm unaware of of that system of painting where you can do all techniques all at once. That's too orange. All right, needs to be a little, I think, pinker. Honestly, everything I have here right now is a little too saturated in general, but we'll work on that a little bit. So, like I said, right now I'm just kind of reestablishing things. I'm not using my technique of painting in with what's it called? Um, well, quinacridone rose because I'm I can get closer to the colors, which I think will that are already there, which I think will make it less work for me down the road. So, even though I do like that look of the quinacridone rose with the, like the quinacridone rose lines everywhere, like I do think that's a cool look, but it's not for everything. Oh, nice. Okay. One thing that's really hard about some hair, um, is that sometimes people's hair and their skin tone are very, very similar, and that just makes life really hard when you're painting it. That's not a thing I suffer from personally, like, if I'm painting myself or someone else is painting me, but a lot of people, it is the case. Their hair and their skin tone are similar enough, especially in shadow and stuff like that, that it can be kind of a problem. If I had the inclination, like, if it was something I liked doing and I, you know, uh, I guess could afford it and just enjoyed the whole process, I feel like um, I could really pull off the goth look pretty well overall with my personal skin tone and hair color, but I do not have the required patience for that. It's too much work. I remember when I put makeup on for Halloween or something, stuff like that, and I hate it. I hate the whole process. I hate everything about it. Oh, except for maybe the results, because like Halloween was, but everything else, can't stand it. All right. Um, Hair is, a lot sometimes to deal with. It, nope, too dark. Trying to go lighter. Go lighter. All right. There we go. Hey, Kenneth, welcome. Kenneth says, "Hello, sir. What's up? What happened to the audio? Is it working now? I don't know what happened to the audio. Is it working now? It's fine here. Okay, loud and clear now. Okay, good, good, good. I don't know what happened. How are you doing today? I am working on this commission, and I obviously I haven't worked. Or wait, let me rephrase that. Not obvious. I haven't worked on this on stream before. I don't think, but Um, it's a commission that I need to get done. Trying to do it while I have some energy. Work has been started a new job and it's been making everything difficult. Kenneth says, me spending time with my sister until she returns, until she returned to America. Nice. That's great. I hope you had a great time. That's family is important. I don't see my family nearly enough, and yeah, you know, it's good. It's good. It's a great thing when you can. She's on vacation here in the Philippines. That's awesome. I have a question for you, and you don't have to share if you don't feel comfortable. But are you originally from the Philippines, or did you just move there? Not that it really, matters where you call home, but just curious. You tried the version of your CMYK based on the experience. Wait. I tried the version of your CMYK. Based on my experience, it's more vivid. Yes, it is. That's I'm. I hope you liked it. But yes, it is more vivid. And the thing about paint is you can always desaturate, but you know you can't i- make the paint more saturated or more vivid. Like whatever it comes out of the tube is max. So you can only go downhill from there as far as that goes. That's why I like it because it offers that flexibility. You were born in the Philippines. Nice. That says, well, it matters for his sister if she's trying to get back into America. I'm assuming she can I'm assuming she's got that situated. Kenneth says, I was born here in the Philippines, sir. Yes. Yeah. Cool. That's that's great. I've never been to the Philippines. I would love to in theory. I'm a little worried about food, because I went vegan and I know not every place is like the most vegan friendly, so it just kind of depends. But otherwise, I would love to visit the Philippines along with a bunch of other countries. Travel around the world is kind of on my bucket list. She is naturalized in America. Awesome, that's great. There's a lot of food stalls here. Yes, but so not every place is like easy to get along when you're vegan. Some places just don't have a like even if the food could easily be, you know, made vegan, they might just not culturally have a big you know, they just might not be the most friendly to it. Some places I'm trying to remember, I think it was Japanese food. I could be wrong. I think it's Japanese food. They use a lot of fish sauce in a lot of things. So even if the food, I could be mistaken, but like even if the food is vegetarian, they still use the fish sauce to cook, and so it still isn't vegan friendly. You're vegan, I recommend lumpeng, uh, Sarah. I don't here. Okay, cool. I will try to remember that. I'm not joking. I really will. I'll screenshot it later. So yeah, it just kind of depends. Some places are better about that than others. I mean, the same thing happens here. There's certain restaurants that are like really, really easy to get along with as far as being vegan, and then you have other restaurants where they don't have the slightest clue what I'm telling them. Like I literally have gone to a restaurant and I'm like, I tell them I'm vegan and I'm just asking like what they have. I'm not like, oh, you need to, cater or change everything. I just want to know what, like, can you make this dish and just, leave the cheese off or whatever. And they're like, okay, so no meat. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, it has cheese on it. I'm like, no, that's not good either. And they have no clue what I'm talking about. So it's like, okay. It's fine. It's just it is what it is. It's a steamed version of spring rolls. Oh, nice. I like spring rolls. That says I just looked up the recipe online. Some are calling for oyster sauce, fish sauce, pork shrimp. Yeah, yeah. So you'd have to be very careful. That's fair. That's what I said. Like some places, but it might be more traditional in some places to not use that stuff. Like it might, I don't know. But yeah, it's just you got to be careful with stuff. Okay, just to give you an example, so I went to a steakhouse here, and yes, I recognize it was not for me. We were doing this for someone else, and I was willing to literally not eat anything if I had to. It was for, like I said, it was for someone else. It's fine, right? So I end up just getting like side dishes, because that's all they can do, right? Fine, not a big deal. I order French fries, right? And you have to be careful with French fries. Sometimes here they're cooked in beef fat or all kinds of, there's all kinds of stuff. So I ask, I'm being cautious, I'm trying to be upfront about it. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to know what I'm eating, you know what I mean? And if I can't eat it, that's fine. I won't. So I end up ordering French fries. Everything is fine. And they bring out, the fries and ketchup. And then 20 minutes later, they come out with another thing of ketchup for me. And I'm like, oh, I already got ketchup, thanks. And they're like, oh no, this is the vegan ketchup. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what now? They're like, yeah, that ketchup has anchovies in it. Uh, why? Why would you bring that out? Why would you not tell me? Why would you even do that? What if I like why? Just why? All around why? Yeah. Tried Jolby. I know there's Jolby in America. Okay. Kenneth says anchovies. You mean small fish? Yeah, anchovies are small fish. Um, Here, they're usually canned and prepared in a certain way. They're also usually like really salted, and I think sometimes they use it as a salt alternative. Um, that says, "What if you had a fish allergy?" I know, right? Kind of that does exist here. Some people have like severe fish allergies, like extremely severe fish allergies. Yeah, you know, don't know why they would do that. Bizarre, bizarre way of handling stuff. Yeah, anchovies are like, I mean, it's basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's like sardines are anchovies, kind of the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I don't know what the thought process was there. Oh, whatever. I just recall it because it was such a like one of those moments. I mean, I got upset, but I didn't. What can you do? Like it happens. I've had mistakes happen occasionally. Luckily, I'm usually fine. It's just sometimes, get an upset stomach or something like that when it's something I can't, I haven't eaten in forever and my stomach can't handle anymore, like dairy and everything. Yeah, whatever. This, I'm trying to get the color right on this sweatshirt. It is very faded. Anyways, by the way, Kenneth, aside from being more saturated, how did you like how did you like using my palette? That says I had a friend who was quite strict vegetarian for a long time. She began to eat meat again, and her intestines protested severely. She had a really hard time. Yeah, I mean, I've had some bad experiences like that. Well, not quite that bad, but like I went to some place and they had like these um like breaded I don't remember what it was. It was like something breaded that was deep fried. Um but it was like it was vegetable. It was a vegetable that was breaded and deep fried. I can't remember what it was. And it was good, it was tasty. And I asked them, I'm like, a lot of times when they do that, they use egg for the breading, or dairy or butter or milk. I asked them, is it vegan? And, and they said, oh yeah, no problem, it's vegan. Cool. And they came back, oh yeah, sorry, no, it's not vegan. After I finished eating them, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I had a very upset stomach that later. Maybe it was psychosomatic, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, this sweatshirt is very like it's a light faded blue. It's not nearly as saturated as I'm making it here. So I'm trying to tone it down a bit now. It really is easier in painting to go from saturated to desaturated. Trying to go from desaturated to saturated is way harder. most of the time. There are times where that makes sense though, like if you put down a base and then you go over it, like that can make sense, but just in general, if you're mixing colors and stuff, it's really hard to raise saturation. Yeah. Yeah, allergies are weird. Like some people can be, it's crazy how really allergic, how severely allergic they can be to things. And restaurants need to be, just it's nice when you find restaurants where you can really trust what they say. And I don't know is a perfectly valid answer if it's the truth. That's the one thing that I wish places were better at. Like just I don't know. If they don't know, they don't know. It's fine. I don't want to take the chance. Sometimes my my mom has celiacs and that's a rough allergy, and you got to be careful. I had a friend who was allergic to peanuts, and yeah, it's surprising how many places use peanut oil for stuff, and so on. But yeah. Anyways, aside from allergies, painting wise, I think I've said this before. I really, really want to get my hands on a good magenta because I do have a tube of magenta, but it's what we would call um, student grade paint. And while I don't think it'll make a huge difference, I still want to get my hands on a better tube of magenta to see, um, if there's any difference. And because I did see this, I know I mentioned it before, but I saw a short that you could mix magenta and a, a green and make a red out of it. I'm like, I want to see that. Or rather, I want to do that and try it. But I think it would be, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible because I would have to see like how it worked exactly, but I think it would be cool if I could create a kind of alternative. And when I say create, I don't mean like I'm coming up with it because I'm a mastermind. I just mean use, right? Like I just mean put it together and use a palette that's not a CMYK palette, but like a primary palette with black and white, but instead of like rose and phthalo blue, it would be, magenta, which I realize is close to rose, and like phthalo green instead of blue. And I don't know can you replace yellow? I don't think you can replace yellow, but maybe instead of more like lemony yellow, it would be a more like orange yellow. I don't know. Like I don't know what kind of bizarre palette that would come out to be. But I think it'd be interesting. A while ago, I tried to do different paintings with like very different palettes and just like one-offs, and it was really fun and challenging and so I do enjoy that, and it does you do you inherently do get a bit of a different look sometimes from a different palette. So it could be really fun to try out. One palette I really want to go back to, and I kind of started it, but then I ended up kind of abandoning it. Um, Sorry about that one. One palette I really enjoy and I want to get back to is the it's very close to what I was just talking about, but it's a white, um, titanium white, uh, quinacridone rose, and phthalo green emerald shade or yellow shade because that those two together, depending on the brand, of course, um, but those two together make a chromatic black. So you don't need black in the paint. Yeah, they're such a great combination. Only, um, obviously there's some limitations to it, but it's such a great combination. I really want to get back to that. I have you can kind of see it here. You can't see it very well. This painting is kind of that palette, but I added other colors to it, so kind of takes away from it a little bit. But yeah, I did a painting a while ago with this. I don't even remember what colors were the palette. It was kind of like a tertiary. It was an attempt at a tertiary palette without having the actual colors. So I had to pre-mix my, pre-mix my palette, and it turned out really well. I'm really happy with the painting that came of it. Um, so I think it could be a lot of fun in general, trying out different palettes to get different looks. But I do like the having that one palette that you kind of, really lean into and explore as well. I think there's something valuable there as well. All right. Ooh, okay. Let me stop for a second. Give my camera a breather. I'm trying to assess exactly what I still need to do in this painting. It's interesting how certain things can be in the right place, but still not feel correct. And what I mean by that is like this area, these lines, all of this is everything is in the correct spot. But when I look at the photo and when I look at the painting, I'm not getting the same like depth that I can see in the reference in the photo. It's and for the record, if you're like, well, why? Why is that? It's a combination of values and edges that are making it the the perception of depth the way we perceive it. People obviously people see stereoscopically, and that gives us the ability to see depth. But when you're looking at a flat picture, that doesn't apply. So then you use other context clues like uh, what's it called? Values and generally just values and edges and the perception of where the light is coming from, which can really create some really cool optical illusions, by the way, if you've ever seen those optical illusions where it's like, you look at something and it looks like it's convex, and then you look at it again and it looks like it's concave, so it looks like it's, like a ball or something that's sticking out or pushed in, depending on like the angle that you're seeing it. It can really mess with your eyes kind of thing. But yeah, that's how that happens. It's because of how we perceive depth when we, lack the stereoscopic ability aspect of things. All right, let's clean the brush a little bit because I need to go dark with it. Phone, why are you buzzing at me? Did anything important? It is not. Cool. That is too dark. I think that is still way too dark. Yeah. All right. But yeah, going back to some other stuff, I am a bit disappointed with the lack of videos I've been able to put out recently. So uh, hopefully in the next, you know, before the end of the year, I can put out at least a few more. Uh, I don't know exactly how many, but hopefully I can do a few more. And then, of course, I still have to do my. I won't be able to do it on New Year's Day necessarily, but I um, I still plan on doing my annual portrait, self portrait. So I don't know when that stream exactly will happen. Like I said, I don't think I'll do it on New Year's Day exactly, but yes, I will still do my annual self portrait. That says, "Oh, I didn't know you did them manually." I haven't really. It's a thing I started last year, so this will be the second one technically. But I said I was going to do them annually, so I'm going to do them annually. That says, I just know you've done quite a few. I have done quite a few. Too many in my opinion, but whatever. Sometimes sometimes you're the only model available, so you paint yourself. But I thought it would be, kind of a fun tradition to do. So I will do it. And I also am still planning on doing a Christmas special stream. Like I said, it probably won't be on Christmas Day itself, but I will do a Christmas themed uh, stream. And I think I know what I'm going to do for Christmas already. I think I already have. Someone gave me an idea, and I think it's a really good one. I just have to double check that the reference is good. I have to go see if I can find good reference for it. But yeah, I think it'll be a good, fun, Christmassy, um, you know, painting. Yeah. And if you know me, you know it's not going to be just like Santa or whatever. Welcome back, Kenneth. I was asking you if how you like the palette that you tried, the CMYK palette. Um, Other than that, I was talking just about my plans for the rest of the year kind of thing. I hope you had a good breakfast. Based on the version of your CMYK, I will use less power colors. Um, you mean you won't need to use like special colors to is that what you're saying? Like you won't need to supplement uh your palette as much? I still use it, but it will minimize. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, what I like about the palette is that, if you want to go super saturated, you can. But if you don't, you can also tone it down easily. You know what I mean? You can always uh desaturate the colors. You still need a bright red pigment like cadmium red or pyro red on specific parts of painting. Yes, but you this is true. However, um it really it you'll find, or at least let me rephrase that. In my experience, you're absolutely right. However, it's a lot farther and few between than you might think, and you basically take it right out of the tube and just put it on, because if you have to mix it with anything, you can basically mix whatever you're mixing anyways. I used to have, like I said, I used to have cad red on my palette, and I stopped putting it out because I would put out a pile of cad red and it would just dry untouched. You know, after that happened a few times, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stop putting this out, and when I need it, I'll open up the tube, and I do, but very rarely. But yeah, so there are times where, yeah, there's no getting around that. Even what's it called, cobalt teal, which is a beautiful color. Sometimes you need cobalt teal, so you just need it, and when you need that punchy color, there's no alternative. You're right. And violets too, and purples, but it's only in the very, very extreme that I personally I feel like I ever am missing something. And there was something else I was talking about. I could have sworn, but I forgot what it was. Yes, the only supplemental color I need is either cad red or pyro red. Yeah, yeah, for the most part. Like I said, there are times, I have that painting that I was painting the fairy lights, the in the background, and these are like the fairy lights are like LED lights, they're very, very bright and very saturated. And that was a time when I did need, some other saturated colors to be able to, get that saturation. But yeah, it's surprising how rarely that does happen. And then, there are times when you say the hell with it and you buy and use colors that are absolutely not light fast, and they will fade. And you just go, yep, this painting will not last throughout the ages, and that's just the way it's going to be. I was like salivating over a one color, and I still plan on buying it eventually. I just know that when I use it, it's just not light fast. That's nothing what you can do. Um, Ultramarine blue can be added to Quinn Rose a little bit to ultramarine. Um, if you're saying sometimes adding ultramarine blue with quinacridone rose to get better purples, yeah, absolutely. You mean phthalo blue? Phthalo blue and yeah, phthalo blue and quinacridone rose does make a good ultramarine alternative. When you do want to mix better violets or purples, ultramarine blue leans more red, so mixing that usually gets you a little closer. However, if you really need it, you're going to need dioxazine purple or cobalt violet or something like that if you need something further, you know. But yeah. Yes, alizarin. I don't use alizarin crimson. I don't see the point in alizarin crimson personally. That's just me. I don't see the point in it. I was more thinking about opera rose specifically because opera rose is a color that I cannot mix, right? Um, but it is not light fast. And if you're curious, what is opera rose? Opera rose is a color that is it technically is magenta because it's technically the same pigment as magenta. However, they add a dye to it, and that is what makes it so much more vivid than regular. God darn it! Um, that's what makes it. I just dropped one of my brushes. I have to clean that. The dye makes it way more vivid. Unfortunately, the dye is also not light fast, so it will fade. It will fade in time. Okay, I just have just a minute. I totally dropped my brush on the floor, and it was fully loaded with paint. Kenneth says my fellow Filipino artist claims that alizarin crimson is more permanent if you use it as a glaze. I think that's inaccurate. I think it's more I think it's more permanent if it's used in conjunction with other colors, not as a glaze, but mixed. But I could be wrong about that. But I think as a glaze, it's actually um, less permanent because um, yeah, I would think a glaze would make. Maybe I'm wrong. I would think a glaze would make it less permanent because the light would be able to penetrate all of it versus just a small area of it. Because the light does penetrate through. Sorry, I'm cleaning my carpet right now. Just to, I have a rug here, but I want to make sure my cats don't step in wet paint. You know, so I'm cleaning it really well right now. Um, so yeah, light can penetrate through, you know, through the surface a little. That's how you get the subsurface scattering. Um, yeah, I don't know. Carpet in the studio? Yeah, so this room already had carpet, and I didn't want to well, no, I wanted to take it out. I couldn't at the time. We didn't have the time for it. So what I did was I put down a sacrificial rug. Um, you need one of those plastic runners. Yeah, so what I did was I put down a plastic thing and then a sacrificial rug on top of the plastic. Um, because if I put thin plastic, it would get torn, and if I put thick plastic, um, I guess I could have just left the thick plastic, but it wasn't large enough for all of it. So yeah, I put a sacrificial rug. This thing is meant to be, tossed. It's not a problem. Yeah, yeah. Kenneth says, I heard Royal Talon's Rembrandt sells more permanent version of Alizarin Crimson's. It's PR 264 or Pyral Rubin. That's anything that isn't the like true alizarin crimson pigment is a fake or a hue or a, I don't know what the word for it is, but it's not the, like a alizarin crimson technically is referring to a specific pigment. Anything else is like an alternative. That's why they call it like usually alizarin crimson permanent. It's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with it, but you want to know what you're getting. Having said that, alizarin crimson just, I don't, I know people love it. I don't get it. It's like, I don't know, you can just kind of mix it, It's not that, I don't know. I don't get it. It's a single pigment. It's in the pyrrole pigments. Yeah. It's in the family of the pyrrole. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Am I using odorless mineral spirits? No, I'm not. I'm not. To clean the carpet? No, I was using it was just a little bit on the surface, and I used just like Clorox wipes to get it out. So you're just using linseed oil to clean oil paints on your session? Okay. I mean, you don't have. Oh, if you mean like while I'm painting, I am not using. I don't use. Yeah, I'm not using mineral spirits really at all. I do have. I have this, uh, and it is full of uh, Gamasol, which is an odorless mineral spirit. One of the safer ones because um, it produces fewer fumes. This is airtight. But at the beginning of the session and at the end of the session, I just clean my brush. I don't really clean my brush midway with it. I just I just wipe my brush off and use oil or other colors. I don't really like. I don't usually clean my brush. Sometimes if I need to get a very, very, very clean particular color, then maybe I'll open it. But usually I don't even bother. It's not usually worth it for me. So yeah, I usually clean my brush at the beginning and the end of my session because I leave my brushes in a pool of mineral oil, just regular mineral oil, and that's not good to get into the painting. So I clean it out with Gamsol. Now, if I didn't already buy, I bought this a long time ago. if I didn't already own this gallon thing of Gamsol, I probably wouldn't even use Gamsol for this. I would just buy a bunch of Miracle Medium from Michael Harding and never touch Gamsol again, or almost ever. But I have that huge thing of Gamsol, so like, well, I'm going to use it to some degree, you know? Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Kenneth. Thank you. But yeah, I've been I've had that thing of Gamsol for a long time. I feel like I'm probably going to end up dying with it, you know. Still, still mostly full. That is also a thing because I think that most of the time my colors are too saturated that using a dirty brush ends up working in my favor a lot of times. So I'm not too overly concerned with it. Oh, thank you, Kenneth. I really appreciate that. That's very sweet of you. I'm glad you feel that way. This part here is so tricky because her hair is essentially falling like a veil over her face there. I need to be able to create that kind of look to it. Um, that'll be fun to work on and figure out how exactly like what I've never done that before. So what techniques do I employ to kind of get that look, you know? I think that'll be a lot of fun. That is one of the things personally I love about painting is that it's like no matter no matter how much you paint, like there's always new things to find, you know? There's always new challenges and things that you haven't necessarily done before and there's always something to kind of attempt and grow and change and so on. Kenneth says, when I started oil painting, I initially started the Zorn palette. Yeah, I remember you mentioning you were going to do you were going to do like a video about that, weren't you? Like a kind of like a documentary or a video with a famous person from the Philippines. Um, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the Zorn palette's cool. It when I was introduced to the Zorn palette, I'd already painted with a bunch of different palettes, and the palette I started with when I went to art school was acrylics, but I started with a palette that was a limited palette. I've always used limited palettes. Um, and as I worked through like different iterations and adding and subtracting colors, um, I eventually kind of landed on, where I'm at right now. And I only heard about the Zorn palette kind of late in that whole process. So by the time I heard of the Zorn palette, I'd already kind of found my CMYK palette, and I'd already done a bunch of like different kind of painting challenges for myself. Like painting with, different limited colors or different limited values and so on and so forth. So when I tried using the Zorn palette for the first time, the exception, I missed my blue, which I talk about in one of my videos. But if you're not setting it up, or if you're setting it up properly and you don't have and like a strong blue in your painting, it's a really it's a really comfortable palette to work in, at least in the way I feel about it. Um, Kenneth says, then I tried Mark Carter's palette and I realized that Mark Carter's palette is too classic vibes for me. Yeah, well, what's funny is he changed his palette a bit, or maybe he didn't change his palette, but the paints that they favor has kind of changed a little. They now have phthalo blue in their palette. Um, in the beginning, they offered like only the 5 colors or something at Geneva, his company. So they've expanded it a bit too. I know a lot of artists struggle with phthalo blue, and I understand why. I'm not oblivious. I understand how difficult it can be for some people to work with phthalo blue. You just gotta you just gotta get into the habit of like barely touching it, basically, unless you're doing a painting that's very, very blue. Um, but yeah, it takes getting used to. Um, but I do think so far it is. I don't want to say it's the best blue, but it is the most versatile in my opinion for if you have to pick one. But you don't have to pick one. Hey, Kilo, welcome. How are you doing today? And if I said your name wrong, I apologize. It just looks like Kilo to me. Welcome. I do have 2 chats, by the way, in case you're wondering why am I talking to just like to myself. It's people in my YouTube chat. But welcome. How are you doing today? What brings you to the stream? Are you an oil painting fan? Do you draw? Are you an artist? A lot of people, most of the people who come by are, but not only. Um, Kenneth claims that the phthalo blue is too powerful for mixes, but he uses pyrrole rubin, which is more powerful than phthalo blue. Pyrrole rubin. I haven't used pyrrole rubin. I'll have to look for it. But no, um, phthalo blue is not too powerful for mixes. You just gotta be very very cautious with it. You just barely touch it, You really do. Like I just like just the smallest little bit usually is enough. But, yeah. My source is from Golden Acrylics. What? That your source for what is from Golden Acrylics? That Pyrrole Rubin is more powerful than Phthalo Blue? And I would believe that. I'm sure phthalo blue is not the only powerful color out there. I just haven't used pyrrole rubin. I'll have to look it up though. They share their tinting strengths of pigments. I don't know why that got held for review. Um, huh. I'd be curious to see that. I'll have to go look for it. I find that stuff fascinating. So yeah, absolutely. You just saw it on their website? Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to look for it. And then I'll have to see what pigment pyrrole rubin not what pigment, what color it kind of is, to see if it's I I think you said it was like alizarin crimson, which, you know, um it might be more tinting strength, but it might not uh, just because it's more tinting strength doesn't mean it's got the vibrancy I might want, but yeah, it's PR 264. Okay. I have a PR 255 and 254. Not quite the same thing, but yeah, I'll have to look it up. I sometimes go down these rabbit holes of like different pigments. Like I kind of went down this rabbit hole with yellows for a while. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to try a different primary yellow. Um, Unfortunately, I could not find a suitable alternative at the moment for my uh, primary yellow. So I'm stuck with either bismuth yellow or cad yellow lemon. I prefer bismuth though. Bismuth yellow is almost similar to cad yellow lemon. It is. I prefer bismuth, and the reason I prefer bismuth is when I mix it. Uh, when I mix it, I feel like bismuth retains a bit more of the yellow saturation for just a little longer than cad lemon. But it's not a huge difference. Just a little. Just a smidge longer. Or it's in my imagination. It could be that. I could be hallucinating it, but to me it seems that way. So for now I'll use bismuth yellow. I was I was looking at okay, I'm just going to nerd out on paints now. I was looking at what's it called? Um Indian yellow as a potential, but uh Kenneth says I think it's because it's a little bit more transparent than cadmium. Probably. That's probably the reason because cadmiums are very opaque, but the opaqueness kills it in the mixes a little bit, so they kind of desaturate and lose their color faster. I was looking at, like I said, Indian yellow as a potential, uh, you know, primary yellow. Maybe I've never used Indian yellow. However, I never got a chance to use Indian yellow because what happened was, as I was looking into it, I found out that there are uh, two versions of Indian yellow, and one version of Indian yellow is the the good one, quote unquote, the good one, but not light fast. And the other version is light fast, but not very good. Indian Yellow, you always saw that on the art store. Yeah, so Indian Yellow has been around for a while. And if you get the like I think it's like the real Indian Yellow, like the good stuff, it's it's very transparent. And that transparency is what allows it to kind of change from like a deep yellow orange to like a lighter, yellow. But that version is not light fast and it will fade. And in fact, I think it's even worse than if I'm not mistaken, it's even worse than uh alizarin crimson. Like it will fade very fast. I mean, alizarin crimson, if you don't keep the painting properly, it can fade within a couple years. And then apparently Indian yellow is much the same. And it's very, very confusing because um, Indian yellow, the transparent version and the non-transparent version have the same pigment code, but there's another extra code that you have to really look at and like research to find out which version it is. And then other companies make a alternative Indian yellow, but they just make it by mixing other yellows. It's basically an Indian yellow hue. It's not a true, Indian yellow. So yeah, I went down a deep dive on this. And Golden is one of the companies that I was using as reference for this because they really went into some research on it. I like Golden a lot. They do a lot of they do a lot of really good research on paints. All right, let's see. I'm going to try using my fan brush to create some of those textures that I'm looking for. Let's see if that works. So yeah, so I went down this deep dive of like, oh, maybe I'll use Indian yellow, and then, I basically went through this whole thing only to discover that no, I can't. I really can't use Indian yellow because of all these factors. I still want, even though I doubt it will really be all that interesting, I still want to try Yinmin Blue. In case you're not familiar with it, Yinmin blue is a um, relatively new blue that was discovered. Now I think it's probably like 5 or 10 years ago, but it's still one of the newest like colors or pigments kind of discovered. Um, and yeah, I would love to try it out. I think it's kind of like it looks like it's pretty close to what's it called? Um, ultramarine or maybe ultramarine and something else mixed. I can't remember. Didn't look all that like, groundbreaking or anything, but it'd still be fun to try it. I mean, there are a lot of colors I would like to try still, just to try. I'll get to them eventually. I think that kind of gives that effect pretty well. No worries. Kenneth, welcome back. I was just talking about paint and different colors and so on. I got into deep into the weeds of what's it called? Indian yellow and why I won't use Indian yellow, but I was looking into it for a while. You just noticed on our online store that bismuth yellow is a best-selling yellow pigment here in the Philippines. It's a, makes sense to me. But I was just saying Indian yellow, it, you, I got into the weeds because it's like there's a lot of there's a transparent version and a non-transparent version, and it fades fat. The transparent version is the really pretty one, but it fades faster than alizarin crimson. Um, and then there are like fake versions, that you can buy that are just hues essentially. So all in all to say that like I didn't even touch the stuff because it ended up not being worth it, in my opinion. But I did look at it thinking, maybe, only to deep dive and waste a ton of time. Um, and I was saying Golden is actually the company that uh, researched a bunch of this stuff. So yeah. Gamblin, Rembrandt, Winsor Newton is the most common oil paint brand here in the Philippines. I mean, Gamblin, Rembrandt. I haven't used Rembrandt. Gamblin though, yes, and Winsor Newton, yes. Those are, absolutely fine paint. They're not always my preferred paint, but like it's one of those things where it's like they are absolutely professional grade, and like if you know if that was all that's available, you're all good. It's nice to have options. Don't get me wrong. I like having options, and I personally a lot of times prefer some other brands. Like I like um, Mgram a lot because it's softer. But you know, it's not a requirement. And in fact, this is oh, you can't see it, but my quinacridone rose is Winsor Newton, and my bismuth yellow is actually a different brand entirely. So yeah, and like I said, I haven't used Rembrandt. I don't know what they're considered, like professional grade, student grade. I don't know. Des says, Leon, I'm trying to find reference for dramatic body positioning. What do you use to find reference images, or do you get good and realistic looking movement? I mean, it really just that's such a hard thing. What are you looking for? That can mean so many different things. As far as good reference, it really depends. So when I'm looking for reference for just portraits, I usually just go on the different what's it called? Stock image websites that have free images, and I search for things that I think I could manipulate and turn into something good. However, if you want something more action oriented, it's you have a few different options there. It just depends how you're going to use it. Kenneth says Lucas Sineller. Seniel. I can't pronounce that. Old Holland, Michael Harding, and Schminka is only available online stores here. That's fair. I mean, those. I don't know all of those brands. I've not used all of those brands, so I can't really tell you, my opinion on them. But I'm sure they're good. I don't know if they're all worth the extra expense. It kind of depends. Yeah. You tried Lucas oil paint? It's just okay. Lucas, I haven't tried because they put beeswax, I think, in there. If I remember correctly, they put beeswax in their paint, and so I avoid it. Um, I think the whole idea is that the beeswax is supposed to make it dry faster, and not only do I not want beeswax in my paint, I also don't want it to dry faster. So yeah, that's a no for me. But yeah, I haven't tried it otherwise. I have tried so far, and you probably don't have it there. It's a local brand. It's Tuscan Pine. It's the brand that what's it called? Um oh my God. I'm totally blanking. Jerry's Artorama. It's their like store brand version. But so far I've liked what I got from them. Anyways, so yeah. Des, are you wanting to make a composition, or do you want a straight up action pose that you can turn into a painting? You see what I'm saying? Because if you just need the pose for like reference, but you're going to be making something that looks completely different, just then you're free to use a lot more things. and you don't have to worry about it, you know? Um, yes, composition of several figures in different positions. Oh, well, then just, I mean, you can use anything from like stills from video to, to like whatever you can find. There are some collections of like, there are some collections out there of like, what is it called? It's like reference images, intended for artists kind of things, and you can find like all kinds of packs of images type of thing. Um, there is a website, I do not remember it for the life of me, but if you search it, you can probably find it. Um, it's like you can tell it what pose you want, and it will try and find images, reference images of models that have that pose. So you can like m- take a mannequin and manipulate it to kind of get you like a 3D mannequin, you can kind of manipulate it to get the pose you want, and then it kind of searches and tries and finds that for you. I don't remember what it's called, but literally just search, like Google search that, and you'll kind of figure it out, I think. That's how I found it. I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember what it's called. Um, but yeah. Kenneth says, in my opinion, quinacridone magenta is more suitable on a split primary palette. Yes, if I was going to do a split primary palette, I probably wouldn't even use quinacridone rose. I would use magenta and cad red, or um, the other red. I can't remember what it's called. The one uh, that you mentioned before. I can't remember the name of it. Um, 255 or whatever it is. Yeah. Sorry, but I'll have to go. The dogs are wanting to go to bed and are bugging. No worries, Des. Talk to you later. Have a good night. Good talking to you. But yeah, if I was using a split primary palette, I probably wouldn't even use quinacridone rose. I agree, because yes, I would want to push the splits, push them further. In fact, if I was using a split primary palette, I don't know that I would use, I don't know if, what's it called? Phthalo blue is leans green, but there's a phthalo blue green shade that leans even more green. I might do that and use, you know, uh, there's a redder version of there's also a redder version of um ultramarine blue. There's an ultramarine blue red shade or something like that. So I might, push them a little bit further. um yeah, because if you're gonna split, you might as well, in my mind, right? And granted, I haven't used it because it's a made up palette in my head, but if I were, in my mind, if you're going to split, you might as well have a difference between them, because if there's no difference between them, there's no point in making the split palette to begin with. That's kind of how I feel. Like there has to be a point to it, right? So, because what you don't wanna do is just have 2 versions of the same thing. Seems that seems pointless. Pyrrole red, that's the red I was trying to think of. Yes, pyrrole red. I think that would be the, either pyrrole or cad. The red shade of ultramarine blue is called French ultramarine blue. Depends, I think, on the I think it depends on the manufacturer. They're not always 100% consistent, you know? But yeah, I think you're right. Like it just depends on the manufacturer. Pyro red is more chromatic than cad red. Yes, but it leans, I think, a little more into the blue, I think. Just a little. And Pyro red is transparent compared to cad red, and it it does come back to that whole thing where it's like, yes, sometimes the transparency is good, sometimes it's a pain to deal with, so it kind of just depends on things, on the situation, right? There are times when the transparency is great because of how it mixes. There are other times where it's like, I just want to put down the color and it's just too transparent, and I just can't get the color to like lay on top and get the coverage that I want, right? And that can be frustrating. So it just depends. Ultramarine blue, nicknamed as workhorse blue. Yes, I've heard that from a lot of people. It's a great blue. I you know I don't. Well, let me rephrase that. It is a workhorse blue. It is a. I think it's a color that, like, there's a lot of history to it, obviously. But the thing that I always had an issue with it is that, like, if you're painting um, scenery, and you want to paint, that aqua color, that like, um, if the sky has some green in it, or whatever, if you want that like cerulean blue kind of shade, or um, or basically anything that kind of leans into the cyan, ultramarine blue sucks, right? It just can't do that. So, I think it's a I think it was the workhorse of blue, because that's what was available. But, you know, I don't I don't know, like, I don't think it can compete very well against, like, ultramarine blue and probably a lot of other colors. I don't know. And I know a lot of people would hate me saying that because they're attached to things, but the thing is, I'm not very attached to um, pigments, because that's the thing, right? Like this is a thing about like the pigment, not the color itself. It's the pigment, right? I'm not really attached to the pigment. If it turns out like if tomorrow they're like, hey, um, what's it called? You know, uh, phthalo blue is actually super fugitive and everything will fade if you paint with it. I'll be like, okay, well, I'm never using phthalo blue again, and I'm done. And I would want an alternative, but that's fine. It is what it is, right? Or if someone came out with like a new blue that's like way better than phthalo blue, cool. I'll use that. That's fine. I don't care. So I don't know. I'm not overly attached to the pigments themselves or the paint themselves. Yeah, Lapis Azul. My fellow Filipino artist told me that cobalt blue is rarely used. They only use it on certain circumstances. Well, it's expensive. That's the problem with cobalt. Uh, Anything cobalt is expensive and toxic, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the big problem with cobalt, right? Um, that's why, like, you don't use a lot of it. But I haven't used cobalt blue, to be fair. I've used cobalt teal, but not cobalt blue. Um, you know, I do have a little tiny tube of genuine cerulean blue, not the what's it called? Um, cerulean blue hue. I do look forward to making some kind of painting with that to try it out. But that's also expensive, if I'm not at least if that's how I remember it. Yeah, cobalt has weaker tinting strength. Yeah, but it once again it makes up for that with its opacity, right? That seems to be usually, well, let me rephrase that. I'm assuming that seems to be usually the trade-off, right? If it's more opaque, um, it doesn't tint as well. If it tints better, it's more transparent. That comes with some issues of its own. Cerulean blue? Yeah, cerulean blue. Um, Hold on, I can tell you the pigment code if you're curious. Yeah, it's kind of like it kind of looks like a cobalt teal type of color. Or if you want, it's kind of like it does kind of look like a sort of a cyan, I guess. Not exactly cyan, but yeah. Let's see. Shoot, I need to give my camera a minute, and I'm probably going to be ending stream in a few minutes anyways. I'm uh yeah, I need a bit of a break. But yeah, cerulean blue. Um it's a cerulean blue genuine. It's PB 35. Yeah. So yes, the only cheap opaque pigments is the earth colors like yellow ochre. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at it, but all the earth tones are cheap, which is good. There's a lot of great pigments there. Um, yeah, and the opaqueness and the that stuff, I mean, you can work around it to a degree, right? Like I said, a lot of times you can mix in white to your colors to make it more opaque, you know. White obviously does affect the color, but a lot of times you can kind of overcome it unless you need, pure pigment, pure right out of the tube. But yeah, it just depends, there's a different pigment for every type of thing, right? Like depends on what you want to do with it. But yeah, all right. I'm gonna have to call it a night. I have to take a bit of a break. Um, I wish I could stream longer, but I am fried. It's been a long day. Um, no stream on Sunday, um, but I will try and do a makeup stream before or after Sunday because I'm going to be at the Austin studio tour. So if anyone is in Austin, studio tour is happening this weekend, and I'll be at the factory on 5th. Um, Kenneth says titanium white. Yes, titanium white. I just use titanium white. I do own lead white. I just I generally don't use it though. And I avoid all whites with zinc in it. But yeah, titanium white. All right. I'm going to call it a night. Kenneth, thank you so much. It was great talking pigments with you. Des, as always, thank you. And everyone who watched, thank you. If you're watching the replay or watched live and we're lurking, thank you. I appreciate it. And I will be back as soon as I can. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your week. And yeah, have a good one, everybody.